This is another Foundry video. This is in my short series of automation. This one I'm going to look at conditions. So conditions in 5th edition. Where are we? Compendium for them. General conditions. Here we go. So these are the basic conditions you'll find in 5th edition. These come as all part of Foundry. And you can see here it tells you what they do. Now, what I like to do is try to automate these as much as I can. Some of them can't be automated. For example, charmed is very difficult to do because it's the way it's worded, the way it works. So you can't really automate that. Deafen, similar. Right end as well. These all have different ways of doing things. So I'm going to try and do the ones I can. Let me see. So the way I'm going to do this is through the two things that come part of Combat Utility Belt. One is Triggler, number two is Conditions Lab. So open these up. You can see Conditions Lab automatically comes with the base rules all here. So these are all linked. Some of these apparently are other things, but the ones already here, these all come linked. So you can see they got so on the condition lab page, what you can do, you can specify where you can find the information about, and you link it to a journal entry or to a compendium. And so what happens if you reference that at some point in a piece of text or in chat, you'll get this clickable little pop-up that allows you to select what it does, and it opens the journal page for you. So we're going to try and do some of these, set them so they automatically update things for you. Now I am going to cheat slightly because I doubt anyone wants to sit here and watch me for half an hour or however long it takes typing out all the features on here. So I'm going to import what the conditions I have from another campaign, and you'll see how that goes. So let me just do that for a second. Choose file. Download. There we go. So import this. What will happen now is you can see it has imported a whole bunch of stuff. So first of all, I'm going to save it, because if you don't save Conditions Lab when you log in, it will not save any features. You have to save it each time you modify it anyway. As you can see, I've got a bunch of extra things included, and these do still work, but I wasn't sure if they would do. You can change the compendium to whatever you want it to be, but so addition to the usual ones, I've got a bless, dodge, rage, and these are all things I've used and made conditions in my games because I find them easier. Let's go look at blinded. So once you decide to automate it, you see this little hand symbol here. You can click on that and it gives you something similar to the actor effects tab you've already seen, and you go to the effects tab here and select different options. So with the case of blinded, what this is telling MIDI QL, this really works with automation. Should I said at the beginning, I use specifically MIDI QL. If you use the fast roll feature, it will automatically pick these up and override them as required. If you don't, it will prompt you. When you'll see when I do an example, it will show you this is the effects. Let's do that now actually. So close that. So let's make Jambé. So what you can do to add a condition to someone, the usual way is right click, go to this symbol here, and you can see it shows you all the symbols that you've got. So this one will go blinded. And when you apply that, you'll see what happens. It shows blinded. Clicking it gives it a pop out. Now, part of the effect I have set up for blinded is that they have disadvantage on attack rolls. So let's just fire a firebolt off. And you can see there already, look. So because I don't use the fast forward feature, this now shows it's the blinded condition has flagged MIDI QOL to show this as being disadvantage. So I can see here it's a disadvantage, give me the pop-up. I should roll disadvantage, so I now miss. Again, to remove it, same thing, click and select, and it removes it. You do this for all these features. Condition lab is found in the settings tab and underneath combat utility belt here. So if we look at this again, you can see here, yeah, so MIDI QOL disadvantage attacks all, so that overrides any other feature. Says that because you have the blinding condition, any attack you make is with disadvantage. On the flip side, it says the other one is grants. So anyone who makes an attack against you will get a similar thing. It will show on there, this is an advantage. Charmed, done nothing with. Same as concentration. Concentration is handled by the game, so I don't do anything with that. Deafened the same. Exhaustion is difficult because it takes a lot. So the base level here, this tells the character sheet I have that exhaustion level goes up by 1. So on the character sheet it will track that as well, and then it starts adding the flags. So the first one is disadvantage on ability checks. Now I did have a macro, but I don't think it works at the moment. Yeah, you can see here. So the next one is that your movement speed is halved. Again, you can try movement all, but it's usually better to break it down. So you multiply by 0.5, which will half the speed they can move at. And again, it's then got the same things from before. This one then says override 2, and this macro I had, because I don't think it works currently. What it's meant to do, it is expected to check the character. When you apply an exhaustion level, it should compare to see if there is a level of exhaustion on there. If it's lower than the one that's been added, it will remove it and replace it. So for example, if you had exhaustion 1 and you went to 2, that macro, what it should do is trigger when you click exhaustion 2, it will automatically remove the exhaustion 1, otherwise it will just stack and you'll get a character with like 5 icons on them for exhaustion, which is just a pain. So you can go all the way up to exhaustion 5. You see here there is a lot of features on here. 80, so hit point max gets halved. Ability checks, ability saves, attack rolls, speed, all go. I think that should be 0. I need to check that. So I think that's automated correctly. Yeah, so that's what I do. Exhaustion. Frightened, you do nothing. Sorry. Frightened, I make the ability check. So these are all disadvantage. Now, this is a bit different because frightened only works, look at the condition itself, if you're in line of sight of the creature. So that's why I put the condition on there. It can be removed and toggled, actually, or because these are flag things, you can just choose to roll with normal if you're out of line of sight. Or you can choose not to automate the Hamilton at all. Grapple makes their speed 0. That shows it doesn't do anything. So something I learned is it doesn't stop you moving the token, but what it does, it sets your speed on the character sheet to 0. so you know that it is 0. If you try to move it, you should be able to, but there's no real way of stopping you from moving it unless there's a way to lock that token, which is just a bit awkward. Incapacitated basically just brings on those. Now some of these are linked. So again, incapacitated is difficult to do because you can't take actions or reactions. I think there's more to incapacitated than that. Invisible. Yeah, advantage on attacks, disadvantage on attacks against you. Paralyzed. Yeah, so here we go, paralyzed one. Paralyzed adds a lot of features. So, for example, but these mean that you these top two mean you automatically fail. I believe it just adds like a large number to like a minus to ensure that you fail. Grants advantage. This one, I believe this one should trigger that any attacks against you do critical damage. I need to check because it might be grant, but after that, have a look. It's been a while since I checked these because they don't come up very often. Not have many paralyze, and speed is 0. And you can see here. So this is a macro. This is called a cub macro. Part of something I'll show you in another video. The dynamic active effects or the active effects. You have the option of calling a macro. This one's calling cub. And cub is basically conditioned lab part here, and you are able to call any of these abilities when using this. So this means that when I apply paralysis to someone, it automatically applies incapacitated and all associated features with incapacitated as well. Petrified is very similar. See all these here. These are damage resistance and immunity, I believe those ones are, to poison and disease. Again, this brings incapacitation. Poison, similar things. So most of these are pretty much how they are in the book. Prone. So I have a macro. Actually, I want this one. That does a flip token. So what that does is it will automatically rotate the token upside down to show that it's been knocked prone along with this. It's another visual cue. Don't need it. It's just quite fun to have something different. Restrained, similar. I will put my JSON file as an attachment, or it might be in like a paste bin, so you can see and add it to your own if you want to. And now unconscious is a big one for me because it brings a whole bunch of things. So unconscious, as per the rules, does also add prone and incapacitated to you as well, and also drops your speed to 0 and lots of, oh there you go, yeah, grants critical, yeah, so it should be there. So unconscious adds a load of different features. So whenever I apply unconscious to a token, it will trigger all these and also these two, and then the associated abilities. Pleaded is a condition that a lot of people use. It's to represent 50% hit points or less. Bless, I make this a condition. You can use an active effect. I like to make it a condition so you can clearly see that people's been blessed. And all this does is set here, so attack rolls, ability saves, gain 1d4. And the rest of them are, some of them are just conditions that add to a token so we can tell easily. Some of them aren't, like Bane is basically the same as Bless but in reverse. Shield of Faith just adds AC. Advantage and disadvantage, I have certain features that, like Guiding Bolt for example, I set it up so that it applies an advantage marker to a token, and then the next attack against it will then trigger that advantage and remove it. That's the other thing you can do. So effects like that, so say you want advantage to last for a short amount of time, you can use the duration tab here and specify this should only last for 1 round. think I can probably show that a bit better with dodging if it's set properly. It's not. Here, set it in the feature itself. I've set one for cover, dead, and it has no feature. That just puts a marker on them. And then some other ones which I've made for different things. Now, these features on the side is the next thing we'll look at. This is how you determine how they look. The overlay will place the icon on top of the token. So have a quick look at that. If we make that an overlay, save it, minimize, and then we go blind. It's not going to do it, is it? Make it as an overlay. Save, close. See if it'll let me do it. See if it does it this time. No, or not. It should. The option of overlay should really apply to the token when it's added to them. So effectively, it will put a big like marker on top of them. Remove others will remove exactly there. Other conditions when it's applied. Output of chat will determine if you get the little chat box to say it's been put on. Markers defeated, which says a mark matching defeated, combatants defeated when condition is applied. That's usually used for, where is it? Dead. So that will then put on there. Now, these can all be done manually. So you can manually apply all these features, add them to your tokens. Stuff like that. You can add them to them manually by doing that each time. Okay, you've been blinded, let's apply a marker. Otherwise, you could automate certain things, which is where Triggler comes in. So Triggler allows you to do a simple trigger, such as the easiest one to do is to mark someone that's been dead, or someone like unconscious, or 50% hit points. That's the one I'm going to show you now. So you need to know a few things. So attributes, and then you can see if you go abilities, it will show you the list of abilities, details, get a few things. It can be quite limited on what you can see. So attributes and hit points. Properties. So you want to use value. Value is the current. Minimum is, I don't think it really implies it. So your maximum is your hit point maximum and temporary hit points. But your value is your current operator. So you want it to be when you are at 50% hit points or less. So equal to or less than. You are 50 percent of your max. So what this trigger here is saying, this trigger is set for when a token is 50% of equal to or less than 50% of their maximum hit points. This trigger works. So what we do now is we can mark it as those. To say if it's, you can set one specifically for NPCs, one for PCs only. So for example, I don't mark the death one for PCs very often. I usually use that for NPCs. For PCs, obviously they go unconscious before they hit 0. Then I can apply the dead marker to them if that's the case. But for the most part, I will leave that safe for this. More safe. See, I've now got a trigger there. Let's do another one. So this one will do this one for the hit points again. Value equal to less than 0. So I think it needs to have the maximum there. So, well, that's NPCs only. Okay. So what we can do is close this, go back to conditions lab, Now find my two I'm using. So first one is dead. This one will be applied to NPCs only. And the trigger is there. And the other one, blooded light trigger. Yeah. If we save this, close, thank you. Now, if we go to this guy and just go, he has 0 hit points, you can see now it automatically applies a red skull over him to say he's dead. This guy is even like 1,000. But there isn't a way to remove it where you have to do another trigger. Jambé, if we go, so he's got 22 hit points. If we go, he's got 11 hit points. Or 10 hit points. Ooh. Apparently I set something up wrong. I did. I think I might know what it is. I don't want to do that. Trigger sometimes doesn't like it when you do it with joints. It tends to prefer having separate ones for whatever reason. So let's do a new trigger. Same thing. Nope. Value to less than the % of max, and then let's make it trigger for PCs only. Actually, I believe you leave it, it might work for both. Have a look. Now we want to do another trigger. This one is for removing the feature, so it's basically the reverse. So value, let's click it, is greater than 50% of max. Okay, for those. Now, so if we do this, so close out because it doesn't seem to register. Go back to conditions lab. Go down to blooded. There's now new options. Let's go. Trigger is if it's 50% less than 50%. Remove trigger is if it's greater than 50%. Okay, save mapping. Do that every time. Close it. Now let's put him on maximum health. Now let's go to 11. There we go. Look. So he's now at 50% hit points, and he now gets a marker over him. Now you can make this a small one, like the blinded token here, but I like to have it clear, so you know. And then if you go, there we get +1 health, goes away because he's now over 50%. And that's the easy way to do things like that, and you can do that for anything. You can trigger how these are applied. Most of them don't have too many triggers on. Like I said, I do tend to have unconscious trigger a lot of stuff. So unconscious, let's do a new one from unconscious. It's a quick one here. Trigger. So attributes, hit points, value is equal to less than 0. It says PCs only. And then we do another one. That is greater. Let's do equal to or greater than 1. PCs only. Okay. Close that. We open this. And then we go down to unconscious. Trigger. If your hit points hit 0, this happens. If your hit points go to 1 or more, that happens. Save map in, close. So let's put Jambé at 0 hit points. Yeah, this decided not to work. It's the thing with Foundry, sometimes it is a little bit of playing around to see why. What I'll do for now is just remove the triggers on here just to see if that's the case. Sometimes it might override, but I wouldn't have thought it would do. So let's go 1 hit point, 0 hit points. So it's probably the trigger. That is not quite right. It's probably because I haven't set that. Let's try that. And then that one. Try that. So go back. This is how I learned all this stuff. So right that way around. Now this may not work. We'll find out. Save it. Close. Put him on 1 hit point. Put him on 0 hit points. Still not triggered. Yeah. I know it's like a really impressive video, isn't it? It's great watching me troubleshoot why unconscious is not triggered. The triggers haven't come through. Can I pull? I suppose you can't actually export the triggers. So one thing I'd have noticed is you can delete these, but if you just keep using them, they'll go up and up. Let's just go equal to 0. What's the value? Try that. Condition loop. Unconscious. We make it that. Okay, save. Give him 1 hit point. Let's see if this one works or not. No. I have an issue. Let me see what it is. I'll come back and tell you what I've done wrong. 1 moment. And we're sorted. I'm not sure what it was, but I have now set it. Where are we? Unconscious. Hit point dot value less than 0, and then that should bring it back up. I think that one might not work because it's tagged as PCs only, but I think the issue might be because I was just going to 0. So it's on 1 hit point. I go -1. See now, it applies these features. So you can see that because of that, it's added unconscious, prone, and incapacitated on this token, and still makes them bloody. But the dummy, it should just make it 0. I get all at the moment when we trigger this. And the reverse should be, I go +1. Yeah, it's not set up properly. So yeah, I set those up wrong. Because I'm amazing like that, apparently, for YouTube video. But you get the gist of it. It will basically be the alternative. Let's see if I can actually get that to work. So if I do that, just go greater than 0. This has been on a little bit longer, but I want to show you this last little bit. If I set it to greater than 0, mapping. So on this guy, so if we go -1, nobody applied. Now, hopefully, go +1. There we go. See, it automatically removes those. So what this feature does is, if someone gets a 0, it'll apply these features. If they then get healed by anyone, that affects their hit points, it will then automatically remove those features. As you can see, it can be a lot posting these on to chat. You can choose not to. It is an option in Conditions Lab. You can choose not to have them posted and just have the icons appear. I like to have it posted. It also allows quick and easy way to remove them. So if you did accidentally apply that, oh, actually shouldn't have done that, and want to reapply, I can just click that, and that will reapply it. And if I click X, it removes it. Simple as that. But yeah, that's a brief outline I use for conditions. I will probably add a few more on, and what I will probably do is I will show you some automation using dynamic active effects next. So for example, getting blast to be automatically applied, or getting a feature, one of these other ones that applied by part of an ability or spell, and show you how that automates, and they set that up. Yeah, so thanks for watching. Hope this is useful and interesting, and I apologize for my crappy rambling, but thanks a lot. Bye.